Why
It's
are you doing
insane,
this, Tom?
Brady. It's
Why are you
absolute.
doing?
Yeah, but it's absolutely insane how lucky we've been in the playoffs. Like, how has a team won that many penalty shootouts?
Mustafa Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance!
It's the most wonderful time of the year. Yes, it's the playoffs and Huddersfield Town are in them. We will never get tired of saying that. I'm your host, Brady Frost, and to tackle this first leg of the semi-final, I'm joined by my co-host, Tom Bradshaw, and we're joined by the second tiers, Justin Peach. How are you both?
Really good, thanks, Brady.
Good.
All good,
Tom?
Brady. You all right?
Yeah.
That's so awkward, that bit. I always wait to go second, but then sometimes it's like, do I go first? It's like dead air.
Well, it doesn't help because you, like, obviously for people who listen to this, you always nod, and I'm like, is that it then? Are you just not like, is this how you great and nod? And it just looks like you've absolutely ignored me. You're like, just get on with it. Anyway, we can't dawdle today, Tom, because this is a big game, isn't it?
It's pretty big.
We are finally here. We've been waiting a while. How are you feeling all about it now? It's confirmed.
I'm excited. Do you know what? For once, I'm actually excited about playoffs, and I don't think I know I'll start watching it on Friday, and I'll start, the butterflies will start kicking in and all that, and I'll be looking away all the time. But I don't know. I just don't feel nervous about it. I've just enjoyed this season so much, and this is just a nice little bonus, really, I think.
Yeah, I think that's the way to look at it. Although I completely agree with you. I've already organised where to watch it on Friday, and I'm already getting a little bit nervous about that. So we'll see what I'm like come kickoff. Justin, obviously you're a Derby fan. That's not to out you, but you are a neutral. Although listeners of the second tier will know you've got a bit of favouritism towards Carlos and his chinos. But most neutrals will probably look at this and probably look at the Forest Sheffield United fixture as maybe the more entertaining one. But what do you make of this matchup?
I think this set of playoffs overall, just to sort of sideways step it, is probably the closest set of playoff games that I can remember, because you've got all the teams here that are built on the same foundations, keeping it relatively tight, pressing opposition in certain parts of the pitch, but it's always a high press, always a high energy performance, and keeping clean sheets. So there isn't too much separating these sides. And I joked in our episode at the weekend that I'd be surprised if we see one or two goals across all four games. But I don't think there will be dual games in any sense, because you've got Luton here who will run their absolute socks off, and that's probably doing them a disservice a little bit, because they know how to play football as well. They are a very good team. And then you've got Huddersfield, exactly the same. When you've got sparks like Sorba Thomas, and set piece as well is ridiculous. So there's always a chance that Huddersfield will grab one from a set piece as well. It's a really intriguing set of games. Not mouth-watering in the sense there are two attacking teams. Like if you've got Fulham against, I don't know, Fulham this season against the Leeds of a couple of seasons ago, that might be a bit more mouth-watering. But then again, they both won the league, so it's a bit redundant. But yeah, these fixtures are tight teams. It's going to be a bit like chess, I think, more so.
Yeah, we'll see. I think that's spot on, because as we always do leading into this podcast, because I love the sound of my own voice, Tom has to put up with this, but 7 points difference in the end between Huddersfield and Luton, 3 places. Obviously, we finished third. I was in the ground when someone was cheering, and it turned out they were cheering because Hull scored that very, very late equaliser against Forest, which meant we got Luton. Feel like that's definitely going to come back to bite us. But anyway, but I was having a look in the form table, because there is the cliche, obviously, form goes out the window in the playoffs. But let's hope not for Town's sake, because in the last 6 games, Town are top of the form table, 16 points. Looking at Luton, they're in mid-table, 12th, if you want to look at that, with 10 points. There was a 2-0 home win for Town, obviously, a few weeks ago. The first game here, we're playing away at Kenilworth Road, and that finished 0-0 earlier in the season. Tom, this is a tricky one. Luton, again, a lot of talk about Nathan Jones and the squad and how they work as a team, but there is a few standout players in there. We did the preview a few weeks ago, but are you going for the same key player or are you going for someone different?
I can't remember who I went for, Brady, actually, but
that's good.
I think I'm going for someone different because I do. Do you know what? Because I hadn't seen him play, especially against us yet, because he didn't play in the away leg, and I'm certain of that because I checked. Although I can't remember much of that away leg. It was a horrible, wet, rainy day, 0-0. It was probably one of the worst games I've ever seen. But I'll take that on Friday night, to be fair. I'll take a 0-0 on Friday night. But I've gone for Alan Campbell. Do you know what? I absolutely love this guy. Do you know we're on about shopping baskets? I'd pop him in there. I don't know why I like him so much. I think it's because he reminds me a bit of Hoggy, and it's like just how he gets stuck in. When they were up at our place, I know we beat him 2-0, but he really gave Lewis O'Brien a hard time. It was like he was just told to basically kick Lewis O'Brien all night. What is he, 23 years old? So he's got that youth on his side as well. And they've only lost 7 games with him in the team, and he started 28. So I think he's kind of come into a good bit of form because he didn't really start having a look at when he's been playing, and when he joined at the start of the season, he didn't really get into the team until about November time, and then since then he's been pretty standard and only really missed a couple of games in the last like 5 months or so. So I just really like him, Brady. I just think if he's disrupting our midfield, kicking us around, the amount of fouls he did on O'Brien in that home game just kind of stopped O'Brien making any distance or anything, which is one of those key things when O'Brien picks it up and makes those yards up the pitch. And if he's there to stop him and frustrate us, then that works in their favour.
Yeah, and wasn't he the one who pushed Lewis over after Adebayo's penalty miss? I think he was the one straight in there.
Maybe. Yeah.
Is that what you? Yeah, I mean, to be fair,
maybe I just really liked him. I just I like a player that kicks other players, I think so. I respect that shithouse kind of get stuck in attitude.
It's been great doing this with you, Tom, because I think it really paints a picture of the players you like. You like people who kick people in the air, and when we bring former Town players back, you love defenders who've been put up front. Yeah, good to hear. It's the correct way. Justin, who did you pick? I noticed you had a Luton player in your team of the season on the second tier. Did you go for him, or have you gone for someone different?
No, I haven't gone for him. I know. Yeah, we picked out Cal Naismith, and his transformation from, I don't really know how to define him as a player, because he will give you 7 or 8 out of 10 wherever he's played. Because if you think back to Wigan in the season that they were relegated a few seasons ago now, he was playing sort of in an advanced midfield role, scoring goals, and now he's one of the best ball playing defenders in the league. So he's literally making that Sunday league regression position wise, but getting better at the same time. But a player I would pick out is probably Robert Snodgrass. He's had a very good impact at Luton since he came in. His left foot, I think everybody knows how good his left foot is, and he might well be the deciding factor in what I think will be a tight couple of games, a bit like Sorba Thomas could be, and it's mainly down to their delivery. Sorba Thomas and his key pass stats, or chance creation stats this season, have been out of this world, and mainly helped by his set piece delivery. And Robert Snodgrass is one of the Championship OGs, I think, in that category. So if he gets a start, definitely. If he doesn't start, I think Jordan Clark coming back in. Nathan Jones described him as one of the best free transfers in history, and I think that was around the same time that Messi signed for PSG as well. So it goes to show how revered he is at Kenilworth Road.
Big claim. I mean, Messi's not really done it to his standards. I'd be quite. we'll plant the seed. I mean, to be fair, I think anyone would take Messi, even if he had a bad season. But maybe because I'm lazy. But when I've watched Luton, admittedly not much, did a little bit before we came on. But Cal Naismith did stand out for me, and I think Town actually have quite a good away record. Stephen Chicken from the Stephen, he's been on here, but he posted a really interesting tweet the other day, which was actually, if you look at away teams and how the teams in the playoffs get on against the teams in the top six, Town are top for playing away in terms of points they get against the top six. So which surprised me again. I think this is it, Tom, because we're so used to Town being rubbish. When they do good stats, you're like, oh, all right. So that stood out for me. But I think I think Luton will, whenever we play Luton, to be honest, I don't enjoy it. I think it's a really difficult game, and that's credit to Nathan Jones and the team. But I think if Luton are going to get anything from this, which, they have a good chance of doing because they're a good team, I think Cal Naismith, on the right in that three is going to be important to stop Ward, stop Thomas if he's fit for this one. Heard a little wicked whisper he might be, but don't know for definite. So, but if he did, we'll see. But talked about Town key player if he does play, Tom. Who have you picked? Have you picked for Sawbury's back, or are you going to go for someone different?
I've kind of gone to counteract my favourite Luton player, so I've gone with Lewis as the key player, because I just I think with that game that we played recently at home, that was kind of what stopped us progressing. It was quite a cagey affair, wasn't it? And I don't think up until we scored that first, it was quite there was a lot of action in the middle, and it was kind of that down to stopping. Sorry, my printer's just started speaking. There's not a robot in here or anything. Sorry, everyone.
You wanted to disagree with each other. Take, that's what it was.
I just think if Lewis can really cause problems, I mean, if that's kind of, oh my God, I thought I'd just turned it off, and now it's making the loudest noise ever.
Is this your notes? Are you printing your notes?
Yeah. Right, shut up. Justin,
you think we clip this out, but this stays in.
This stays in.
Beautiful. That is beautiful. It's got to stay in.
I think if Lewis can be as effective as he was in that home game, right, and Campbell's kind of told stop him from doing stuff, there's a chance, depending on the referee as well, in it, that you'll get him a yellow. You never know as well. So I just think Lewis got to be on one of his brilliant moods where he can pick it up and basically have a magnet to his foot and take on about 3 or 4 and then get brought down by someone. So yeah, I think for me, just Lewis is the key. Thinking of those 2 games we played against them, they've both been so tight, and it's kind of come down to someone doing something special, breaking through those lines. So, and for me, Sorba's there, but is he going to be fit or not? So Lewis is going to be my key player, Brady.
Yeah, I mean, this is always a great shout. I mean, Justin, we love Lewis on here. I think it's fairly clear, but so do you, because you named him in your team, didn't you? So do you want to, for all the Town fans, talk about why you love him too?
Yeah, he's one of them players who, he's massively impressed this season, and we put him in our half team of the season in January, and his ball, he was top of the charts for turning possession over and winning the ball back in midfield, which is quite sort of indicative of the way Corberán likes to play, and he suits the system perfectly. And I think I said in our team of the season episode, that I don't think Huddersfield could play the same way without someone like Lewis O'Brien in the team, which is quite interesting actually, because Alan Campbell is almost the exact copy of Lewis O'Brien, but the attributes are fairly similar, as Thomas pointed out. The ability to win the ball back, press high, carry the ball as well, it's all really good. But I think O'Brien's got that incisive pass in him that Campbell lacks. And obviously they're both a similar age as well, which probably puts O'Brien, it does put O'Brien way ahead of him. But yeah, I think someone like O'Brien would definitely be the difference in a big game like this, because of that ability to carry the ball through midfield and just not being scared. And he's shown time and time again that he can do it on the big occasion, because coming towards the end of the season, Huddersfield, you're in a position where could have dropped out of the playoffs if form didn't, I wouldn't say improve, because it didn't really drop off, but there were a couple of defeats before the international break. could have been a bad 7 games after then, but they were all big games. Players got up for it, and Lewis O'Brien again, centre of that.
Yeah, well, that's great. That's a nice little clip for us there. But did you pick Lewis as your key player, or did you go for someone different, Justin?
Yeah, I went for someone slightly different, and it's another player that I'm completely in love with. It's Harry Toffolo. I think given his form at the moment and his ability to break in behind opposition, I think that's going to be key, because Luton are a team who also play a wing backs, which means quite often they're going to be left in one-on-one situations potentially. I don't think it'll be Fred Onyedinma, because I think he pinged his hamstring against Fulham, so it'll most likely be James Bree. And I would fancy Toffolo against James Bree all day. I like James Bree. I think he's a good defender, but I think Toffolo is miles ahead. And again, he's in the form of his life at the moment. And yeah, I think he can be the difference in a tight game, as he has been recently.
Good shout out, Justin. Sorry, Brady, because I was just going to put in there, because thinking back to that away leg, the one chance Town had, and this was kind of before Harry went on his amazing run that he's on now and picked up that form, was, I think it was about 5 minutes left, and Toffolo just picks the ball up, just gets past the left back, and then he's kind of one-on-one, and he didn't know whether to cross or shoot, and it was kind of a bit of both, do you know what I mean? And it hit the side netting. So it's kind of like he was showing a bit of problems in the away leg first round, and it's, can he do it now? Take it up a notch the second time, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he is in incredible form. I mean, what is it? Is it 5 goals in 7 games? You know, you can't.
Yeah,
you'd be chuffed with that as a striker. So that's a really good point, though, Tom, what you said, because I think Toffolo, we know how good a player he is. I think you know, that awful season where Kelly brought him in, I think that's one of the best things Danny Kelly ever did at Town, bringing Harry Toffolo in. He was a shining light when we were terrible. You know, but it was interesting this season, because I think he set such a high standard for himself that he wasn't really living up to that. But like you say, just he seems to have grown, doesn't he? Like, you know, got back to his best. And you know, for me, I am biased, but definitely I would say one of the best left backs in this division, if not the best left back, certainly on form at the moment. So yeah, again, let's hype ourselves up. We are a good team. We finished 3rd, so that's what we're going for. So key play for me, I thought you picked Lewis, so I didn't go for Lewis. I thought Toffolo might get picked, so I've gone for Danny Ward, another player who's been amazing for Town this season. He got his goal against Bristol City, which I think, you know, it was a bit of a weird goal actually, because I was at the ground, and because it was like in, but the defender cleared it, but no one knew it was Ward who tapped it in where I was sat. So everyone was like celebrating, but like, we don't know if that's a goal and like who scored, which was quite weird. But yeah, he's just been amazing for us this season. I think, you know, he had a horrible season, he'd admit himself. I mean, all Town fans know this, but I just think he knits our attack, and especially with doubts about Sorba. You know, I think, Tom, we've said as well, the whoever plays either side of Ward is probably up for debate. So I think he's even more crucial for this, and he's been exceptional. He's just the exact type of striker that Carlos wants, and really works hard for the team. And you know, he's got 14 goals in it. We've seen what he can do in away games. You know, West Brom is the one that springs to mind. Got 2. One of my favourite goals of the season, where he just closed down the keeper. Always love them; they're the best ones. So yeah, no, I think. Well, we've all talked about it there, but there's 3 players who could really cause Luton some problems. So here's hoping. But it is time for View from the Other Side, because this is the big one, and obviously for Luton, this is uncharted territory. So I was keen to hear what a Luton fan had to say. So I caught up with Kev from the Luton Town Supporters Trust ahead of the game, and here's what he had to say about the big semi-final first leg.
We've lost to a pub side. We've literally lost to a pub side.
Hi Kev, thanks for joining me. First of all, congratulations on making the playoffs. You must be delighted with that.
Hi Brady, thanks for having me back on, especially to talk about something like playing in the playoffs. Yeah, delighted we made the playoffs. It was, you know, kind of the natural progression. We've gone from the Great Escape on the last day of the season to mid-table last season. The next thing was to push for the top 6 this season, and actually, given that we were in the top 6 for most of the second half of the season, it's fully deserved that we've made it into the playoffs. I've spoken to players throughout the season. They've told me that their aim was to make it into the top 6, and credit to them. You know, some people saw that as ambitious, as unlikely, as unrealistic, but they stuck to their guns. That was their goal, and thankfully on Saturday we got the result that we needed, and we're in the playoffs. Yes, absolutely delighted. I mean, from where we've been 8 years ago, still in the conference, to, you know, now potentially 3 games away from being in the Premier League, it's just incredible. It's a fantastic story, and I just hope that there's still...
How do you think Luton will get on against Huddersfield over the 2 legs? We know you've had a bit of an injury hit end to the season.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough couple of games, isn't it? The 2 league games were tough games, 0-0 and 2-0, but I don't think the 2-0 was a 2-0 really. Obviously, if we score the penalty at your place, we're looking good for a draw at the very least. If not, you know, go on and win the game with the last 20 minutes or whatever there was after that. You're right, we have had an injury hit end to the season, but we had a few players back on Saturday. Whether that was because, you know, we were in the last chance saloon sort of thing and they forced themselves to play, I'm not sure. But speaking to a number of players at our end of season awards night on Sunday, they all seemed in good spirits. The ones that have been out injured certainly didn't give off the impression that they're struggling for Friday, particularly the ones that played on Saturday. So I think we're coming back with a stronger side than what we've had in recent times. Probably still not quite as strong as the one that came to your place on that Monday night last month, but strong enough to at least do ourselves justice and to give us a fighting chance in the playoffs. Do I think we can win? I think a whole lot of this tie is going to depend on Friday night. I think if we can get a win on Friday, take a lead up north with us, make you kind of force the game and make you score goals, then we might have you exactly where we want you, sort of thing. But if you come away from our place with a win, you know, it's going to be very difficult for us to turn that round in the second leg. So I think a lot of this tie is all about Friday night, and I think we'll know more about who's going to come out on top in it after Friday. I know we're delighted that we're at home first. Gives us a chance at kind of home ground that we've made a fortress this season to get an advantage. And if we can do that, who knows? So yeah, obviously I'm hoping that we win and win quite comfortably and make it easy on Friday, to make it easy on Monday. But I think the result on Friday will dictate how this tie eventually goes.
And finally, we did a poll ahead of the final day fixtures about who Town fans would want to win in the playoffs, and 64% said Luton Town. Is it irritating to have this team always underestimated?
Not really. I mean, you know, some could call it disrespectful, you know, some could call it underestimating us, everything else. You know, it's the end result is something that we thrive on. You know, we've either been little old Luton this season, or lucky Luton, or, you know, the smallest side who, you know, don't really deserve to be there. Well, that's nonsense. We do deserve to be there. We're not in the playoffs by fluke. We're in the playoffs by hard work, by determination, team spirit, and on merit. It's not like we got in there on the last day of the season. We've been in the top 6 ever since February. So we fully deserve our place to be there. I can understand why Huddersfield fans want to play us. In all honesty, I probably wouldn't have wanted to have played Nottingham Forest, either of the 2 choices that we got, because they look a mighty good side. But whoever you play in the playoffs, you're going to have to play really, really well. They're all going to be tough. So no, it doesn't really bother me particularly. I understand how it all works, but it wouldn't surprise me if our players use that sort of thing as sort of motivation. They like being written off. They like being the underdogs. It's when we tend to perform to our best. So yeah, you guys carry on underestimating us if that's what you're doing. All the best for Friday and on Monday, and may the best team win over the 2 legs.
Okay, cool. So we've heard from Kev. So we mentioned on Twitter we're going to do a little bit of something different. We've not gone for a return to Mac pick. Tom's quite upset about that because I think
you're joking, Brady. It's the best segment on this podcast. I get people writing to me personally saying, "Tom, your return to the Mac pick was amazing this week." I've started doing signed autographs. If anyone wants them, just email in. Andy takes that chance. /Tom autographs. Get one. £5.
Nice. And clearly humble. That section hasn't gone to your head at all.
They're all from a guy called A.D. Lee.
AD Lee, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure who that is though.
No, fair enough. I think Justin will have no clue about this as well, which
No,
is even better.
it's gone over me.
Tom loves Alan Lee more than I ever known a man love a football player.
His middle name's Desmond.
That's great information.
Yeah. Justin, do you have any strong feelings towards Alan Lee?
I do love a target man, and again, headed goals are an absolute favourite of mine. I think Harry Toffolo scored one of the goals of the season this season for me. I think it was Toffolo. But yeah, Alan Lee definitely fits the bill. Yeah, big number 9s. A dying breed. Yeah, him and Steve Howard, I think, two that spring to mind.
Beautiful. Do you know what? We should do like a target man special in the summer or something like that, Brady. Get Justin on just to talk about basically Alan Lee, but then other big bastards.
I love how even though we're doing probably the most important game of the season so far, we're still talking about
brought Alan Lee.
Just to give you context as well, Tom loves Alan Lee so much that we do a section, not this time, listener, called Hot Takes, and someone wrote in and was so angry that they were annoyed at Tom for his love for Alan Lee, and just like it was about 7 paragraphs about Alan Lee and how he's the worst striker Town have ever had.
It's out of order.
It's bang out of order. Anyway, so we're not doing Return to the Mac. We'll curb the Alan Lee chat. But we're doing a bit of a Q&A. So we asked you guys for some questions and you delivered. So I don't know where to start really, because we've got quite a few. I suppose this is the interesting one, and Justin, it'd be interesting to get your opinion on this one as well. But this is from Cam Fryer. So he's a German Terrier. I think David and his troops might have helped there. He says, as a German Terrier, I still don't really get how deep the rivalries are to the other playoff teams in this mix. In the case Town won't make it, brackets they will, love the confidence, in which order would you want the other teams to go up? So Cam would go for Blades, Luton, Forest. Justin, I know you're a neutral, so I'll come to you first. But I assume, by being on this podcast, otherwise we'll end it right now, that you want Huddersfield to go up. But if you didn't, out of the other 3, what would your order be?
Obviously, in the unlikely scenario that Huddersfield will not win the playoffs. I mean, it's being a Derby fan, I can't automatically say Forest, can I? And Sheffield United have just come from the Premier League. So I mean, it's got to be Luton. It's such a good story. What Luton have managed to achieve, and this isn't sort of a pat on the head, but on the budget they have. I think Kieran Maguire, the football finance expert, said it's a low budget for League 1 and 2 teams, which is absolutely frightening. And they've got to a point now where they're going to move into a new stadium in a couple of years. So for them to go from near oblivion in non-league to on the cusp of the Premier League in the space of 10 or 12 years is absolutely monumental. And considering that they were not too far off being relegated back into League 1 before Nathan Jones came in and took over from Graham Jones just a couple of seasons ago. Yeah, it's a big old rise and a really, really, really good story.
Yeah, I know we're playing them, but I think if the 1% chance that Huddersfield can go up, I think I probably would pick Luton also, like you say. To be honest as well, this is me as a really bitter fan who is, we all know the second season in the Premier League where we were terrible, but we stunk the place out, and media let us know, and we were just playing lip service to the other team. So if they feel like that about us, I'd love to see what they feel about Luton, because they'll love it like they did with us in the first season in the Premier League for about 3 months, and then when we get a decent result, that won't be good enough. So I'd love to see that, because like you say, can you imagine Mo Salah at Kenilworth Road in those change rooms? I just think it'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Tom, what about you? Are you totally agree?
Totally agree. Justin's almost made me want Luton to go up after that passionate speech. Honestly, it's I think because it would just exactly what you've just touched on, Brady. If they went up, it would be a bit of a middle finger to the Premier League, because Premier League probably don't want either of us to go up, to be honest. Like when we're probably not a desirable marketing team, are we? I mean, at the end of the day, I think they want Forest to go up. I think answering Cam's question, yeah, for me it goes probably Luton, Sheffield United, and then Forest. Forest have just wound me up this year. I don't know what it is. And I don't mind Sheffield United. I think because when we beat them in the playoff final, I spoke to a few of them, and they were all right about it, weren't they? And I think we've both got a similar hatred for Chef Wednesday. Do you know what I mean? Especially when we beat them in the playoffs, they were obviously very happy with that. So probably is, yeah. Probably goes Luton, Sheffield United, and then Forest, I think.
Yeah. Justin, I don't know if you've seen that, but obviously, you support their rivals, but I think Forest fans have been winding Town fans up quite a lot. But has it been the same with other teams? I don't know if you've seen, but I think Forest are kind of grinding everyone's gears a little bit. They certainly have in this kind of section of the fan base.
Yeah, I know that they've obviously Bournemouth fans have taken a bit of a shining to him recently, obviously because of the result last week. But I think from a Forest perspective, to defend them a little bit, this has been so long in the waiting for them, and they've had so much success in such a short period of time that I think, Derby fans have gone through it as well, and Derby fans at one point were unbearable. You can't deny that. I think because of that, success happens in such a short space of time. They get quite. I think every supporter gets it. They get quite ahead of themselves, or too big for the boots, and maybe there's a football ego that develops. But the playoffs humbles everybody, absolutely everyone. Everyone's had a bad experience in the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was very diplomatic as well, Justin. Like, Forest have wound Town fans up. I think it was the fireworks, Tom. That's where it all started after beating us in the cup.
Yeah, it was the FA Cup, wasn't it, when they denied setting off fireworks after beating us.
Yeah, but then said it was a takeaway, and they always do that. But I don't think they did it anyway.
No, it is funny though. It is funny. It's that. I think it's a bit of that. Kind of. It was. I watched the Sunderland Chef Wednesday game last night, and it was all they mentioned was like, oh, these two should be higher up. The fan base are big enough for the Premier League. Blah 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 blah. That's not how football works, is it? Do you know what I mean? It's like you're only there because you're good enough, and I guess that's the beauty of the playoffs. And that's why it'd be so funny if us or Luton ended up going up this year, and then same for Wickham in League One. Because what are they going to have at Wembley? About probably 10,000 max, and Sunderland will probably sell it out. That'd be funny.
I mean, we can't comment about fan attendances for some stuff. Anyway.
No, Brady, I know. But that's just the life of living in a small town, isn't it, as well?
Exactly. Small town with a big heart, Tom. the boy who dared to dream or whatever. We'll move on. I mean, what I would say to Forest, because we're slagging them off a bit, Steve Cooper has done an amazing job, and I think...
Nah, it's been lucky, Brady. He's been lucky all season.
Nah, he has done an amazing job. Well, I'm just getting the caveat in. He's done a really good job. And I tell you what, when they just hacked Houghton, I was at that home game. We played him after, and Forest fans were like, oh, you can do us 4 or 5 here. And they beat us 2-0, and they were great. And so I was a bit worried about playing them. And so I think that's probably why there's a little bit of jokes, because actually I'm a little bit scared if we get them. Anyway. Yeah. So this one's from Anonymous. I don't know why, because it's a good question, but it says, Justin, obviously Derby were in the playoffs recently. What would your advice be for Town fans about to experience the playoffs?
Don't be disappointed when you hear the team sheet. I flew from Prague. I cut my holiday short. I flew from Prague and obviously landed about 8 o'clock in the UK. Walked from one end of London to the other because I had spare time. Got to about 2 o'clock, team sheet came out, and Frank Lampard didn't start a striker. So it completely burst my bubble. But I think it's a strange one. What I would absolutely the one thing I would suggest is just be passionate, but don't be disappointed, because the playoffs is one of those things that can, I think I mentioned it a minute ago, it can humble you so quickly. And I think I've travelled down to Fulham and lost. I've been to Preston and lost. I've seen quite a few, probably more disappointments in the playoffs than I have seen positives. And I think it's because Sky sell you this dream that the Premier League is the be all and end all. And financially it is, but I think you have good times in the Championship as well, and I think everyone should remember that. And the playoffs is there to be embraced as well. It's a fun time. It's a stressful time, but it's also a fun time. I think that anxiety is a bit of a kick, if to be honest with you. I think it's one of the best and worst feelings.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it. I'm already a bit anxious. It reminds me of, do you remember, Tom, at the playoff final, they did those heart rate monitors when we were there?
Yeah.
And then there was that Reading fan who was like, it was like clinically dead.
He was dead, yeah. He was basically dead. It was like everyone else was like over 150, wasn't it, or something? And he was on about 68 or something BPM, which is like, what?
Just chilled out. He's gone to the concourse, hasn't he? Like, he's just got to get. Yeah, no, it's a good point. Yeah, like you say, just I think that's what we've been saying on here. Just let's just enjoy the excitement and the anxiety, because, like you say,
still memories as well. I think the thing with football is, I think at any level, as long as you follow your team, you enjoy it. Trying to make you feel a bit better for next season, Justin, because it'll still be fun. You're still going to see Derby play some games, aren't you? That's the thing. Well, yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed.
Rub it in.
But it is like, I think as long as you enjoy watching it, like the season we didn't go up, but Bournemouth, that playoff legs we played against Bournemouth in League One, probably two of the favourite games I've ever been to. The away one was a bit boring, but it was like we got a goal down there, which is unusual for Town to even score in a playoff. Do you know what I mean? And then the home leg was, oh, what a night that was. So it's like Leeds, Derby at Leeds, isn't it? You're never going to forget that. Exactly. What a game that was. So even sometimes if you don't make it the whole way, it's still quite a successful season. I think you've got to remember that, haven't you?
Yeah. I love that Derby Leeds game because obviously Leeds are our rivals. I was in Leeds bar watching that with all these cocky Leeds fans, and Justin, I didn't really have strong feelings for Derby, but that was a great night. That lives long in my memory. No, it's spot on, Tom. Okay, so we've got another question here. It's from Oliver Barnes. I think this one might kill the mood a little bit, but as much as we'd all love to go up, would it actually be good for the future of Huddersfield Town? It feels as though we've only just got our club back from the last relegation. It's been a painful few years. Tom, what do you make of that one?
Oh, it's a good question, isn't it, that? But I think we're in such kind of a balancing situation now, Brady, and we've definitely touched on this in the last few pods. It's kind of like, but if we don't go up, you run the risk of probably losing X, Y, and Z as well. Do you know what I mean? Carlos could get poached. Lewis O'Brien's probably definitely off if we don't go up, kind of thing. And then who knows what happens next season in the Championship. And then if you go up, it could be another second season like when we were last there. Or we could have learnt from his mistakes and be smart, bring in some good talent, build basically for going down, but have a good squad when you get there, kind of thing. Oh, it's a great question, and I think there's too many answers to it, to be honest. Personally, I want us to go up there still. I want Town to be in the best league they can be.
Yeah. No, I agree with that, to be honest. Justin, I'd begin to get your take on this in a sec. I know you're not a Town fan, but yeah, I mean, I want Huddersfield to be the best version of themselves that they can be. Obviously, the financial injection you get from going to the Premier League, it would make a difference. Like I say, Tom, we've been there. So a lot of the people behind the scenes are still there, experienced the first one. So like you say, hopefully they've learned from, because that's when you learn, isn't it? You learn from the mistakes you made in the past. So you'd have to hope it. And, I think we've had a couple of questions about squad and who'd be good. And you never know. I mean, like, who expected Lee Nichols to be Championship goalkeeper of the year? There's a lot to say about the squad harmony and how that can help carry it. Yes, you need that quality, but look at Brentford. I think a lot of people back them to be probably bottom, really. Look at the amazing work they've done. So you never know. I think, again, it's like a what if. I think they've just got to take that. We've seen Norwich yo-yo, but they can that can be successful, and you can make a lot of money at that. So yeah, who knows? But Justin, do you think it'd be good for Huddersfield to go up? I mean, obviously we saw you will have seen what it did to them when they dropped back in to the Championship and how that affected them negatively.
Yeah, I think that was a result of really bad planning and spending, which can happen to any club. But as you mentioned already, I think if you've learned from the mistakes of the past, you have. It feels like you have a much better football setup now. I can't remember the technical director or sporting director's name that you had back then. But obviously there was Jan Siewert as well. There was just a lot that didn't. I don't know. They're trying to repeat processes of old, which just seemed a really bad way of doing it, and it paid dividends. And I think Phil Hodgson came out and said there's absolutely no legacy from the money that you earn in the Premier League, which obviously set you back to about now. You probably financially you shouldn't be competing at the top end of the table, but you are, and that's down to the genius that is core brand. So yeah, I think going up to the Premier League would be good for Huddersfield, but as long as you get it right. I think Norwich City are a really good example of how you get it right, which is quite strange because I know they've become a yo-yo club and they've become this symbol of parachute payments, but actually they've got one of the poorest owners, which is weird saying that, got one of those poorest owners, I think even in the Championship and obviously in the Premier League. I think Delia Smith and I can't remember who else it is. I think they're only worth about £90 million. But now they've got enough money in the bank to be able to propel them to go back up, or at least try and go back up again. And I think if you can do that, set yourself some solid foundations, I think that is the key to sort of long-term planning.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's a very sensible answer. So there you go, Oliver. We all say do it. Got to take it, and it could work. So we'll see. So Justin, this is another anonymous question for you, and I can understand why this one's anonymous. Basically, it says, Justin, does your co-host Ryan hate Huddersfield Town?
Hates everyone.
Hates everyone.
He hates everyone. No, he's very honest. Look, I've known him for about 20 years, 25 years. I've known him since I was about 4 years old. And he can get on people's nerves, but he's very honest. But he can be right as well. You look at Blackburn. I think Blackburn fans panned him for suggesting that they'll fall out on the playoffs, but he looked into the data and they were overperforming and they fell out of the playoffs. And he's got quite a lot of those things right. He's just a very honest individual. He always goes with his head, not quite his heart. And obviously, I'm more of a instinctive. I'm a bit more subjective. I'm very much the romanticist of the two in terms of football, which is why I'm completely behind the Huddersfield, and I do think they are favourites. So yeah, just always take what he says with a pinch of salt. He's harmless, but I know he can great to me all the time.
No, I mean, in fairness, I think when he was saying I imagine the questions in answer, because he said we'll drop out of the playoffs, and obviously we haven't. And to be fair, at the time we all thought that, didn't we, Tom? So I think it was just I think, I'll be honest, when we lost to Bournemouth and we lost to Forest in the Cup, we're all thinking, oh, that's it now. So I think I'm more relieved that we didn't, because I think it looked, you look at it and you look at our squad, it has been overperforming in a lot of senses. So I get that from Ryan, but I think it's just like when you're doing well, you don't like someone else telling you that it could happen, because it deep down, it could happen, but you don't want to believe it and, prove wrong. You can dance about it, can't you? So Anyway, we'll move on. We like Ryan on here, by the way. So Ryan, if you do want to come on, I'm sure you'd have to. But if you don't, clearly it's because you do hate Huddersfield Town.
Stop digging, Brady.
Stop digging. I am digging. Okay.
But Ryan, you can come on. We do
Ryan,
like
you can come on. Yeah, really like you, mate. Yeah, honest.
I'm here as well, by the way.
Yeah, Justin, you know we like you. This is your third time on the show. Come on.
Brady always says, Justin, he's like, I asked Ryan first, but he couldn't do it. Shall I ask that Justin?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
I'm happy to be second choice. I'm just happy to be picked.
Well, you are such a little... No, right, come on. I always get teased about guests. Tom, you sort the guests, then I can.
Oh no!
Jokes.
Well, I'll just get Alan Lee on every week.
Yeah. Do you think? What is Alan? Anyway, right, come on. We got a question from Jay Fretwell, which was how many Town players, including those who are on loan, are good enough if we go up? So again, a lot of these questions are about. So that's an interesting one. I think we've probably touched on him. I think Lewis for sure. I think he deserves a crack at the Prem. I think Toff. Yeah. In my opinion. Yeah, I think so. I think Nichols, again, I'm not saying these are Champions League players, but I think Premier League players. I think Sorba could be. Yeah. I think who else?
I think Wardy's been there, done it kind of. When he was at Cardiff, he was like, didn't play brilliantly in the Prem, but he was like a solid kind of player at that level, lower end Premier League. I think, especially the way he's been this season, I'd give him a shout if we did go up. Give him a shout to start quite a few games. So, who else, Brady? Hoggy. I was thinking of this one the other day. Hoggy. I was thinking if we go up, could he? I think the pace would just be away from him by now at that level.
Yeah, unless you play centre back, he's been doing that a lot recently.
Well, yeah, true actually.
I think Levi Colwell, probably Premier League, hell of a player, and I think that's probably the only way we'd get him back to Town and see if we did go up. Yeah, Justin, what about yourself? Which Town players do you think are probably Premier League quality? I always think this is an interesting question as well, because what makes a Premier League player? Anyway, who do you think?
I was just thinking that, because if I go back to Burnley squads of years gone by, and I think how many of these players are actually Premier League quality, or is it this system that they play that gets the very best out of them and makes opposition uncomfortable enough to gain results? And I think Huddersfield would sit in that category very much so. But if you're looking purely on an individual basis, I mean, how many of these players would you have thought would be good enough for the Championship? You look at Naby Sarr, Tom Lees. I thought Tom Lees was done in the Championship after being released from Sheffield Wednesday. And actually, statistically, he's been one of the better performing defenders in the league, and probably quite unlucky to miss out on the Team of the Year that we did anyway. But I think probably, he's made 40 appearances. Yeah, definitely really unlucky to miss out, actually. But I think if you look at, like the likes of Toffolo, Jonathan Russell, I think has got, if you look at his size and physical abilities, I think you always got to look at that from a young player perspective, because physically they'll be able to handle themselves, and then the rest comes with development. I think Matty Pearson, big physical defender again. I think he'll enjoy playing in the Premier League, because I don't think opposition players now, especially now, don't like playing against defenders like Matty Pearson. And then I'm just looking through a squad list. I'd love to see Jordan Rhodes have another crack, because his form in recent weeks has been brilliant. Again, there's a bit of romance there that I'm falling for a little bit. That I'd love to see it happen. And yeah, I think the players you mentioned, there'll definitely need to be some recruits. But again, I think Colbrand's got a system that fits perfectly, and he's able to recruit players for that system. Which, if you've got a manager and backroom team that can do that, I think you're good enough to compete with anyone.
Absolutely. Very well said, Justin. Jay also, he sent me quite a few questions. I think, like myself, he's clearly flip-flopping on a lot of things, but he said, if we don't go up, how do we avoid becoming the next Barnsley? I think that's, we talked about this, Tom. I was a little bit worried about that. I think Lewis will go. obviously you look at Lewis, for me, all around probably our best player. Very similar to what Alex Mowat was for Barnsley, in terms of how important he was and best player.
Yeah.
So I think Lewis will go if we don't go up, but I don't think Carlos will go personally. I think not because he wouldn't want to. I just think we've talked about it on here, but he's been amazing this season. But again, I think it's like he's only had one good season, and I think clubs would wait to see. And also he's really involved in everything and very meticulous and detailed. We've talked about it a lot on here, how he's been involved from training to even the diets of the players. And I think he enjoys that control, and I'm not sure if he'd get that at another club. I don't know what you think, Tom.
It's a great question, I think, that, because there is some good comparisons there. Yeah, O'Brien, Mowat, and then so Ishmael, was he only had one good season though, didn't he? Was he there for a year and a bit, and it was the second kind of full season he had where obviously it worked really well, and then he got tapped up by West Brom. Brady, how do you know? Like, I don't know, Norwich.
They've got Steve Bruce, baby, going the Steve Bruce train.
What about if Leeds come down? They're not going to be knocking on the door for their former employee kind of thing.
Well,
I can't believe I just said that, because that's not a nice thought at all. But
yeah, why have you said that, Tom? That's really bummed me out.
I think it is really finely balanced. We've been very lucky with Carlos now this second season. There'll be a plan in place, won't there? But will it work? Is the question. That Barnsley's model's a bit different though, isn't it? Like the setup and everything. So I do think there's maybe that to be a bit more optimistic about if it did all kind of crumble over the summer. But do you know what I really like about this team, and I think would be a reason that we wouldn't do Barnsley? We might end up just finishing whatever 14th, 15th, but you've got a lot of local lads now, which I do think means a lot to the how everything's built and how they feel about the club and things. And I think that's been a massive factor of this season. There's such a good feeling around that kind of all these players are playing for the shirt. The majority have come back because they actually want to live in Huddersfield or close to Huddersfield, which is quite rare when you think about some of the comments from when we were in the Premier League and some of the players we signed. So I'd like to think the majority of these players are not going to go next season either, like the ones that I'm on about, the kind of the local lot. So I'd say we wouldn't do a Barnsley. That's my answer to that question. I'd be quite confident of it.
Yeah. Justin, obviously, are we just being a bit neurotic as fans, or do you think Town are unlikely to do a Barnsley?
Definitely sound like you've been hurt before. Very much a pessimist, but I think it'd be very difficult to do a Barnsley because of how much went wrong and how much Barnsley cocked up last summer. Dane Murphy left. That was the biggest issue for them. The CEO went to Forest, and obviously Ishmael left, and then Mowat was picked up. There's another player. Daryl DK wasn't replaced. Recruitment was terrible, and that came down from the very top, and there was just so much going wrong at board level. And I think it comes down to that. If everything's right behind the scenes, I don't think you can curtail down the leagues. If you look at Reading, for example, all going wrong behind the scenes. So much, so many people have left over the last year upstairs in Reading, and I think that's had an impact. And obviously they're in a position now where they've got a massive rebuild ahead of them. But I think if you've got things right and you have succession plans in place, I don't think any player in any team is irreplaceable. So, for example, if Lewis O'Brien left, funny we were speaking about Barnsley, Rommel Palmer, his pressing stats this season are amongst the best. He'd be a free transfer. He's a local lad as well. Might be worth a pick up there if O'Brien was to leave. So I think, for me, I think Huddersfield sitting in that team, a bit like Brentford. They've got the same BT model as well, so they might be modelling themselves a little bit like Brentford off the pitch. they always had succession plans in place. They constantly lost players, constantly replaced them, got better. So I think Huddersfield would sit in that bracket, or at least I think they would. So as I say, I don't think any players are replaced. But obviously, it hurts being a supporter seeing your favourite players leave. But as long as everyone's switched on in the hierarchy, then those players will be replaced.
Yeah, he's open. And I suppose, like you say, it's just, we've talked about it before, but if O'Brien does go, it's not about replacing him with one player. You can replace what he brings, with others. So, yeah, we'll see. I think we'll end on this one because Town, when it comes to the playoffs, penalties are always involved, Tom, aren't they? Or it certainly feels that way. So this is from Jay Bentley to end the pod. You can have 5 penalty takers from the current squad. Who would you have? So I looked into this. We talked about it on. To be honest, Justin, since we're confirmed in the playoffs, it's been hard to preview games because the fans are like, well, if we win, it'll be good. If not, we're in the playoffs. So did a little bit of research. So we had a Carabao Cup penalty shootout right the first game of the season against Sheffield Wednesday. We won 4-2 on penalties. Lee Nichols, who wasn't the number one at this point, saved 2 penalties. And I think Jordan Rhodes, O'Brien, I can't remember the other 2. So I'm picking O'Brien because I think he has the bottle. We talked about this, Tom, didn't we? One. I think Rhodes didn't take a penalty against us in the playoffs when he was at Wednesday, but obviously he's comfortable taking them at Town.
He didn't want to take a penalty at Wembley against Sheffield United because he was 6th or 7th. So I don't know if he likes the big occasion. Maybe not. Maybe he's a bit.
Maybe not. Yeah. Well, I think. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna go. If I can go 5, I'm gonna go O'Brien. Yeah. I think Tino, that penalty against Coventry, I think he's got the confidence. I'm not doing this in any particular order because otherwise that'll just get far too complicated. I'm not saying Sorba because I feel like Sorba could miss. I don't know why. I hope I'm not jinxing it. I'm going to go Wardy. I know he missed one, but I think he could redeem himself. If Pearson's fit, I'd back Matty Pearson. I think he'd do Maguire and just absolutely smash it. And I think I backed Toff. So what's that? Pearson, O'Brien, Toff, Tino. And okay. I'll say that. I think that's 4. But I'll say Lee Nichols. Why not? I think he's at the bottom. Yeah. What about you, Tom?
O'Brien, Toff, Hogg, Lees, and I've gone more for like the last 2 more experienced because I just think they'll have the head on him. It's difficult. One more. I'm trying to think who'd even potentially be on the pitch either. Maybe Sinani.
Yeah.
There's 5. But I don't know. Look, we're class at penalties, Brady. I can't even remember the last time we lost a penalty shootout. I think it was Bradford in the Johnston's Paint Trophy in like 2010 or something like that, 2009.
I don't like your attitude with penalties, Tom. Just in last week, he said,
Mate,
we're really confident. We're really confident with penalties. I mean, I don't watch them when we're taking them, but we're fine.
Right, Brentford away, when was that? 90, 94, 1, bing. Cardiff, 1, bing. Then Bournemouth, 1, bing. Sheffield United, 1, bing. Sheffield Wednesday, 1, bing. Reading, 1, bing. That's 7. No, 6. 6. Is that it?
Silly maths, isn't it?
Then Chef Wednesday again, 8. And there must be some other cup games where we've won penalties. Like we're like the Germany of I've said it before. We're the Germany in the football league. We're unbeatable at penalties. I'm so confident. I'm so confident we're gonna go up by penalties again, and I can't wait. It's gonna be so good.
Oh, stop jinxing us, man. Justin, which Town players? I suppose you could name 5 if you want, but who would you have in a penalty shootout for Town? I'm going to say wild shout Naby Sarr. I think Naby Sarr would absolutely. I'd back him. He's just that type of character.
Two things. I hope that's clipped up. What Tom said, by the way, just in the
Oh, it will
event, just in the event of a penalty shootout defeat. I think that'll be just the tonic needed to get over the heartache. Naby Sarr, if he could take one with his head, I'd back him all day. But sadly, I don't think you can generate that much power trying to sort of diving header it off the floor. I think statistically, I think left footers are more efficient penalty takers. I may have just made that up. I feel like I've read that before. But Naby Sarr is left footed, could work out. Harry Toffolo, Danny Ward, Levi Colwell, I think he's got a penalty in him. He's such a composed player. I think that'll work out. Yeah, Danny Ward. Snodin is left footed, I think, isn't he?
Yeah.
I think this is all working out. All the left footers, get him in there.
Yeah.
Nice.
Honestly, look, right. I know I was being like, we win penalties all the time. But like, I honestly don't think if we do, we're due to lose on penalties, right? And I don't think I'd be that fussed because we've been so lucky over like the last 15, 16 years with penalties. It's insane, Brady. It's absolutely, yeah, but it's absolutely insane how lucky we've been in the playoffs. Like, how has a team won that many penalty shootouts?
We've got the bottle, mate.
Exactly. So, like, I think that's kind of I'm already like putting myself at ease in case we did lose one, because I just think, oh well, swings and roundabouts, penalties, isn't it? That's the luck of the draw.
This is so getting clipped. Right. Anyway, I think we'll leave it on there. But yes. Anyway, we hope we've previewed Luton first leg.
You're doing a prediction. You've not. A prediction actually, because we've not.
We
even
need to do a prediction, don't we? I'd left that out, Tom. God, it's just so many. Okay, prediction. 0-0 first leg.
Yeah, 0-0. I've got 0-0 as well.
Yeah, I think 0-0 as well.
So
I would take that all day long.
Yeah,
I think.
Well, again, looking at the stats, I think Luton were quite low down in terms of points against the top six away from home. So, yeah, who knows? It might have jinxed us there. But yeah, we will see anyway. So it's Friday night. Don't need to tell any Town fans. It's on TV. If you were lucky enough to get a ticket, please go cheer Town on and enjoy it. And look, whatever happens, guys, we've made it to the playoffs. I thought we were going to be relegated this season. I think a lot of us did. So, look, we finished third in the table. We're in a playoff semi-final. Let's bloody enjoy it and fingers crossed and see what happens. But we will leave it there. So thanks to Tom and Justin for coming on. Thanks to everyone for listening as always. I tell you what, because we're in a good mood, it's playoff semi-finals. We don't normally do this. If you listen to this week and rate and review a pod, why don't you leave us a little review and say how much you like it? That might cheer us up, especially if we do lose in a penalty shootout and I have to clip Tom's little section there. But yeah, that would be great if you could. And thank you to Magic Rock for sponsoring us as always. We are working out what to do in terms of the second leg, whether there'll be a preview or not. Me and Matt having some stuff, so we'll put that on the socials. But yeah, fingers crossed and up the Town to tar for now.
There's a team that is dear to its followers. The colours are bright blue and white. They're a team of renown, and they're the pride of the town. And the game of football is their delight. And all the while upon the field of play, thousands loudly cheer them on the way. Often you can hear them say, who can beat the Town today? And then the bells will ring so merrily, and every goal shall be a memory. So Town, play up and bring that cup back to Huddersfield. So Town, play up and bring the cup back to Huddersfield.